Welcome back to Taiwan Outlook. Joining us today is the Director of the Chinese Affairs Department of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, Dr. Lai Yi-Zhong. Dr. Lai, we've been talking about political stalemate in the Taiwan Strait. How about other interaction between the two sides? Let's start with the military situation. There has been a growing concern about military imbalance in the Taiwan Strait. What is your assessment of this military balance in the region?
If you look at the Chinese missiles, whether the short-range missiles and targeting against Taiwan, well, first of all, before the DPP came into power, it's like 200 in year 2000. And right now, 7 years later, it become the number is somewhat assembling like 1,000, 900 to 1,000, according to the various estimates. So that the missile targeting against Taiwan, we saw that increase like 4 or 5 times. Mm-hmm. And also the Chinese naval capabilities, their submarines, including the nuclear submarine and also the more advanced technology submarine, mm-hmm. That have been deployed into the sea. And also the rumors about the Chinese was about to construct an air carrier. Mm-hmm. That is also in place, and not to mention about the recently China just knocked out one of the satellites in space, and the deployment of the J-10s, mm-hmm. which was connotated as the aircraft that could compete against F-16s. Yeah.
But what are the implications of, as you just mentioned, China's ability to strike the satellites?
I think for Chinese to strike the satellite, definitely the aim is to show to the United States that since the U.S. About the early warning system, the intelligence, as well as the reconnaissance and the communications, mm-hmm. Very rely heavily on the space. All the satellites around in what we see in the outer space, about the 54% belong to the United States, mm-hmm. and China only accounts for 4% of them. And the rest of them goes to like a European, and some few of them goes to the Russia, so it's about 34. So basically for China, with so few of the space asset in the outer space, and to develop the anti-satellite missiles and the technology, apparently that is for the military purpose, to knock out and to warn and also dissuade and to confuse the United States in the early stage. For Chinese various military campaign. And we look at that the Taiwan Strait contingency is apparently in their mind, and how to actively to work on that. Mm-hmm. And basically that kind of issues is not just about the military balances, it's about the Chinese intention, what they really wanted to do. And knock out the satellite in the space, not only to the United States and diplomatically, that's a very blunt message. But also, this means that they are very, very serious about the military takeover.
Are they using these things to deter, or possibly to deter, the U.S. Possible engagement in this Taiwanese contingency?
You don't deter the U.S. Involvement by knocking out its satellite in space. The deter means basically that the U.S. you try to prevent U.S. from involving. Then what you want to do is to actually use your brutal force in order to stop them from entering. But the knock out the satellite, basically in military, I believe that it consists of the trying to prevent, delay, and also dissuade the United States about what their assessment about China is, and also in a way to prevent the United States from having the real time and access situation and cooperation with the Taiwan military when the contingency happens. So apparently this is to prevent the outside forces from cooperating with Taiwan and make it easier for China to take over, military take over Taiwan.
But in response to growing possible military imbalance in the Taiwan Strait, your party has been pushing for the passing of the special arms purchase budget and to buy weapons from the United States. But so far, you have failed to get enough support from the opposition parties. Has your party ever tried to reach out to the opposition party and try to bring them on board to support Taiwan's defense?
Yeah, we did. Actually, we did several times about trying to bring the opposition party on board for the military package. You see that in year 2004, when the military procurement package has been out, it was coined as the so-called the hyperflating the budget, about the 610.8 billion new Taiwan dollars. Yeah. But then we, due to the opposition party's position, then we sliced it down to somewhat to about the 400 billion. And then due to their urge, we sliced down again, go to about 3,300 billion NT dollars. And all those slicing down and is accorded with their requirement, like about a submarine and also the PAC-3 missile defense system. Yeah. So that we do all the things we can. But the sad thing is that despite what our effort is and responding to their call and moving some of the budget into the regular budget is in order to satisfy their demand that that kind of special budget will prevent them from monitoring the military spendings. And we gave them the opportunity, we gave them the right, but continuously we received no support from them. So that I think the opposition party, their position about blocking the military budget, one of the issue actually has something to do with the year 2005, their party-to-party dialogue with China. And if you would like to rely on the Communist Party to help to gain power, then you definitely does not want to provoke them or does not want to anger them by passing the military budget like those.
Are you accusing them for cooperating with the PRC or CCP?
I don't have to accuse them. I don't have to accuse them. I believe that if you look at the action and the result, apparently the correlation is very clear.
But what are the possible impacts of this Stowe's decision on buying weapons from the States?
First of all, the Taiwan's military modernization capacity and the speed is dramatically slowing down. We're not just talking about the asset, about the big ticket items, but we're also talking about the software as well as the training and the doctrine that associate with the delivering of those systems, especially those systems like PAC-3 and the submarine. It is in every way connected, has a relevance about the integrating Taiwan's military with the U.S. and Japan in a very sophisticated and not provoking way. Those are very important for amplifying and multiplying our military forces' capabilities to defend against Chinese threat. So this is not about the missile defense system or the submarine or the anti-submarine aircraft as a three big things. It is part of our overall strategy for modernizing Taiwan's military capabilities, and to continue to delay those will hurt our military.
Yeah, you spoke of the party-to-party dialogues across the Taiwan Strait, and some countries, including the United States, said that they welcome dialogues across Taiwan Strait. You know, any dialogue is better than no dialogue. What's your party's position on these party-to-party dialogues, especially CCP to the opposition party's platform?
I will say that in year 2005, when the party-to-party CCP and KMT dialogue started to happen, I will say that that time the DPP position is that we do not support. We did not support this kind of dialogue, not because we oppose the dialogue, but because at that time China was just passing the anti-secession law, so that having the opposition to have a dialogue with China, you are letting China to get away with this, and so the timing was ill-perceived. And the KMT and unfortunately as well as opposition party, that kind of dialogue at that time was sort of helping China to escape from international criticisms, and due to that position, we do not support. We did not support.
So it was a timing problem. It's not a substance or these kind of channels of communication.
It's a timing problem. And the second of all is that when we look at the actual content within the KMT and CCP, because if there's no talk between them and they're about to have a talk, how could you reject it based on the substance? Because there is no substance actually coming out. So that and after the visit of the Lian Zhan and due to his activity in China, we check every single of them. And unfortunately, what the KMT said in China is very unfortunate to Taiwan. Especially, he is praising the Chinese political system and blaming Taiwan's democracy. I don't think that anybody in Taiwan would like to accept that. Look, we are a democracy and that they are authoritarian, and they were praising. You are praising authoritarian system and blaming the democracy as a problem. So that, and not to mention that the Lian Zhan, during his stay in China, never publicly stated out the Taiwanese people's desire for peace and security, and not to be threatened by force. All right. So those are the real things that the Taiwanese people are working at, and he said nothing about those. But instead, he was praising Chinese authoritarian system and giving the Communist Party an opportunity to get away from international criticism due to their passage of the anti-secession law. So that it is due to those the actions actually done by KMT. We found out that kind of dialogue has nothing to and did not help the Taiwan's overall security and the internal unity.
But from what happened in the past few years, past year also, we've been seeing China trying to woo some particular sectors in Taiwan, agricultural sector, farmers, business community, or even students as well. How do you see this kind of soft approach on the part of Beijing towards the Taiwanese society?
Yeah, we do see that Beijing right now want to do a lot of those, and basically, I'm not going to say that they are doing this on a benign purpose. Of course, there is something other beneath it, but on the purpose, we are not here to blockade that kind of the communication. But what we want is to have a fair communications. Yeah, you want to reach out, fine, but how about our reaching out to yours? And we have been blockading. And for me, I want to go to China and want to talk with them. And they continue to prevent me from entering. And also about the Chinese, the tourists. Until today, even though both sides are talking about the terrorist organization and the tourism, the cross-strait tourism. But if the China continue to label Taiwan as an illegal destination for the cross-strait tourism, how could the Chinese tourists be able to come to Taiwan? And all we wanted is equal opportunities, and the issue about the farmers and agriculture exchange. Then we have to look at the market logic. For example, when China was talking about helping Taiwanese farmers, but what actually they did is not helping them at all. They talk about the bananas or the orange purchasing when those items are in the low price, but the issue is that it is due to Chinese continue broadcasting about the opportunities, so that some Taiwanese farmers started to plant the bananas, and then the result is that we have an overflow of the bananas, and then the price goes down. Okay. And also another issue is that when the banana packaged in Taiwan go to China, we found out that due to the slow process of the Chinese customary actions and also bureaucracy, those bananas won't be able to solve in the market because it's all rotten. And not to mention the intellectual property theft and stealing about the agricultural technology, and not enforcing the governmental regulations to have the fair competition in market. And all those things contribute to the very negative effects, and that eventually is hurting our farmers. So basically, we're not going to object any kind of agriculture exchange. But what we wanted to do is that China, you have to say we are looking at the action. If you act as you said, all right, and then we are going to monitor very closely, and we want all the exchange to be fair and equal and reciprocity. But
apparently, China wants to bypass the ruling party of Taiwan. And is your party concerned about being marginalized in the process of dialogues, exchanges, and so on?
Look, if there's something that is right, and eventually you don't have to worry about it if something that's done right. And if it is done wrong, then we have to worry about it. And I think last year, at the end of last year, the Straight Exchange Foundation has an opinion poll in Taiwan. And that is very interesting for everybody to see. That is, it was asking about Taiwanese people about the Chinese government tactic of bypassing the government and talking to opposition, whether they believe this conducive for the cross-strait relationship. And over 70% of them said this is not conducive. And then also over 60% of those respondents consider this act as a hostile to the Taiwan government, and not really talking to the needs of the Taiwanese people, because eventually they still believe that government-to-government dialogue is the one final thing in order to measure the cross-strait relationship. And the Chinese Beijing government continue to blockade this process, and by not talking to the government and just talking to everybody else except the government, and eventually the society in Taiwan consider this as not as friendly. So that when we look at the this whole process. Yes, the government would like to do anything we can to protect our businessmen and also our people when they go to China or they are doing things related with China. And the Beijing government is not cooperating with us in all those regards. But the Beijing government was also thinking about that if they can directly bypass the government by talking to the people and woo the people to their own favor. And eventually what we found out, this tactic is also backfiring against them.
Yeah. Well, all those things we just talked about have to do with the rise of China. So when we come back, we'll talk about the rise of China and your party's position, responding to China's rise. And let's take a short break and stay with us.